dialogue with. And before even I go there, I would once again formally welcome our guest, which is Shri Sanjay Yadav ji, who is the principal of the Ahlcon International School, Mayur Vihar, New Delhi. I have a brief introduction of his to share with all of you so that you get to know Sanjay ji better from the body of work he's been carrying out. And then we will hear from Sanjay ji with respect to his top 10 priorities. And then we will dive into Q&A. Okay. So Sanjay ji is a postgraduate in physics, electronics, and he holds a PG diploma in space sciences, which is a revelation for me, and their applications, a course with high specializations conducted by Space Application Center, ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, and Physical Research Laboratory, PRL, Ahmedabad. He successfully completed Leading Change, a CSML course from Harvard School of Education, attended and successfully completed Executive Education Program on Strategic Leadership for Schools in a Changing Environment in June 2023 at IIM Ahmedabad. Mr. Yadav has 33 years of experience in institution of international repute in India and abroad. He has been the nodal supervisor for evaluation work of 7 different subjects for spot evaluation on screen marking. CBSE and NTA have been appointing him as a city coordinator for examinations like CUET, GPAT, GIPMAT, AISSCE, and AISSE. The list of his accolades are many. However, I will just pick up a couple of them, which catches my eye and attention. He was recently among a delegation of school leaders who visited the People's Republic of China, wherein he was part of 8-member delegation from India. And I think apart from that, he's a recipient of YI Principals Award in the design category as part of the Youth Ideathon 2024 by Think Startup on 10th October 2024 at IIT Delhi. He's visited with Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He's conducted a lot of training programs in schools in Sharjah and I would say beyond shores of India. So as I said, he's a very, very distinguished leader. And I think his body of work speaks the volume with respect to what he has achieved so far. But more than that, we regard him for his candid views and more importantly, his hospitable nature, which we witnessed when we were at his schools. Thank you very much, Sanjay ji, for sparing your time. And as I mentioned, how we will do this is now we will put this house to you. And after you are done, we will put this to a Q&A. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gaurav ji. And it's always a delight to connect with you. As I mentioned, that IPN platform, I feel at home. And this journey, of course, there are all like-minded people who are here. And as you mentioned it right in the beginning of the session, that there are people who have been attending it regularly. And I'm sure that you must be feeling extremely delighted that the purpose, the servitude with which you are bringing a lot of value to the education fraternity, the benefit which passes on to the children, and eventually it is creating a difference in our ecosystem. So this is something which is what connected me, what attracted me, and somebody who is as passionate, who is as enthusiastic, whose energy and enthusiasm rubs on to all of us. So we are all here to learn from each other. And I particularly have always been calling myself as a student, and not only me, but I'm sure that everybody who is here with me shares similar sentiments that yes, it's a lifelong learning, whether there is a policy framework which defines it or not, but and it is be it the school framework or not, but it is the life, the way we live it, the way we move across it. So this number is little scary. Of course, as you mentioned it, that we are not going to talk about 10 or maybe 4 or 5 or something. But I just thought that being a student of science, so there are few things which I'll try to build the discussion on. And as you have also very rightly mentioned, that let it not be a monologue, but we would definitely want participation. We would definitely value and respect and look forward to the views and inputs from the others so that it becomes a discussion. And I'm looking forward that there is going to be a takeaway for me from this session, and there will be something which we all will sit back and reflect together. In any system, as we say, that when we want to talk about what should be there, and at this point of time in the month of January, when the entire globe comes to the grip of something called as New Year resolutions, or giving it a thought of certain priorities for life, it is, I would rather see it as a time of reflection. And the time of reflection which gets inspiration from our ecosystem, from our past experiences, when we see that this is what we have been doing, and this is something which needs to be sustained because I have the reasons for that. However, at the same time, this is something which will add value to what I am doing, or it will make a difference in the life of my own personal life or life of the people around me. And then being in a position where sometimes you are taking decisions. When you have to take decisions, or when you have to take people on board, I would say that the role of leadership is as many people you can take on board. And it's not necessary that you are influencing them, but rather you are open to discussion, you are open to understanding their needs, and maybe putting things together, so that when we talk about developing a vision, beautifully, it is always said that it is a shared vision which gets developed. And unless it is a shared vision, that vision doesn't take us anywhere. So that kind of onboarding process is there. But as I mentioned, that being a student of science, three terms which have always been connecting, three prime questions which we, or the terms which are used for questioning, be it the way we studied as a student, we looked at the sequences what, how, and why. But when we look into a different role, how we have to function, my order of questioning changes slightly. And I say that as a person who has to take certain decisions, or who has to work with people where there will be a bigger impact on the ecosystem. So can we always try, and this I can tell you that it's not just for a leader, but anybody, whatever you want to do, even with children, when we talk about it, until and unless you are connected to the core cause, until unless you identify that why am I doing this, and if that calling comes, and if that is clear in your mind, then only you will be able to understand that what needs to be done and how should it be done. So I'm just flipping the sequence. Instead of talking about what, how, and why, let's begin with why first. That let's make our purpose clear at the back of our mind, that I am passionate, I want to do this, and this is the reason. So I have driven some inspiration from the education scenario today. And acknowledgement is again another very important thing. Sitting at one place, I may say that, okay, this I've heard this is happening or that is happening, but it may not be happening in my ecosystem, or I simply deny that, no, we are not part of it. It may be happening elsewhere, but sorry, we are not affected by it. So let me tell you that in this boat, we are all sailing together. And the boundaries have already been broken. There are no boundaries, in fact, and how it is impacting the human life, how it is impacting our children, how it is subsequently impacting all of us together. So there is a term beautifully which is put across, and I say that we are living in the world of interconnected challenges. Just as we are interconnected in terms of strengthening each other, so what could be a better example than COVID, which became an interconnecting global challenge? And then obviously there were no boundaries left, but everybody was looking for a simple solution, that how do we collectively take care of our existence or not? That's the challenge went to that extent also. So in this time, when we look at it, of course, the meaning of the term success, the meaning of the term development, the meaning of the term advancement, the meaning of the term that I'm making my career or I'm impacting my life. But does this all get affected by certain things which we are observing? We are observing, but how consciously are we paying attention to that? Should we bring it as a part of priority in our wish list in our education system? Should we try to bring practices which will be able to make a collective difference so that all of us do not face that interconnecting challenge. And one of the things, living in the city of Delhi, living in Delhi NCR, I'm sure that when I start looking at the disruptions, it has become more of a world of disruptions rather than a smooth sail. And how is it impacting the lives of children? You look at it, that I was just recalling yesterday only, September was the month when children were writing examination. Majority of the schools pan India. October is the one where there were festivals, and there were, obviously, I won't call that a disruption, but that is very essential part of the life that brings in a lot of value addition. So that was fine. But at the same time, the continuity gets affected to some extent. And then came November when we, especially people living in Delhi NCR, we have been under the grip of this grab 1, 2, 3, 4, how it keeps changing, flipping from one mode to the other. But whose life is getting affected? It's not just us, but think of the perspective of a child, how the momentum is gained and how it is disrupted. So that's why I'm using the term, be it extreme weather condition, be it the climate action, be it various ecosystems which are affecting us. So this is first acknowledgement that when we are looking at the priority, it becomes essential for us that how do we bring in the practices, how do we take people on board, how do we develop our vision and collective action that we are able to minimize the impact of these disruptions. At the same time, then how do we consciously put effort that we can reduce these disruptions? So it's not going to be something which is in a theory book or which is written in some paper, but it requires collective effort. By sitting and thinking somebody else will do it or policy will do it and let's wait for a policy, then we are simply getting affected. So this is one thought which was very consciously put in all our thoughts and action. And as a
Okay.
school community, we took this decision that we try to understand the principles, or I would say the wish list of existing together on this planet.
Mhm.
And this was very wisely put in the form of 17 sustainable development goals. And I would say that it is not just development, but it is existence goals. The challenge has come to the extent that we require them to fulfill in terms of our existence to make our children think in that direction. I
True.
won't say that because they are the ones who will come out with innovative challenges. They are the ones who will bring the challenges, solutions which we have not even thought about it. So
Correct.
it's important that we introduce them, we expose them to them. And this is what we as a school has started doing consciously, right from nursery to grade 12 level, right from transaction of every lesson. I would say that every lesson is mapped with certain SDG goals that yes, when
Okay.
we are talking about this, it takes care of this. You don't have to, this is no rocket science. You don't have to do anything extraordinary. But if you've learned this, if you're practicing this, trust me, you are taking care of this or you're working towards this particular sustainable development goal. And it is going to help everybody's coexistence. So this is one which I would say was a priority, is a
True.
priority, and we are consciously working towards it. So
Okay.
this is one part. At the same time, of course, it is important for us that when we are living on this planet, be it our resource depletion, and resource depletion could be because of various reasons, be it the population, which is growing, or there are certain countries which are already started facing the challenge of younger population reducing. And they say that even if resources are there, but younger population is not there, so how will it affect our system? And they have to start revisiting their policies also. If we talk about the difference in terms of economic demographics, maybe there is the three basic rules or three basic goals which were there in Sustainable Development Goal, which is talking about hunger, which is talking about poverty, which is talking about the education. And trust me, the recent report, in spite of all efforts being put from 2015, here is the first confession and acknowledgement which comes not from me, but which comes from UN Secretary General himself, saying that there has been negative development. Past COVID, what has been the observation? In fact, whatever efforts and whatever results were visible, the data is suggesting that yes, we are in the red zone. And this is where, unless we bring that awareness in our children, at least we belong to the part of the system which is able to talk about education, because it is when we look at quality education, it is there to make a difference in every sphere. And the last goal which talks about, that is goal number 17, which is collaboration, which is talking about the collective effort. So somewhere I feel that in our priority list, we do whatever we want to, but can we just bring the thoughts around that, yes, this action of ours is going to collectively take our globe somewhere closer to fulfillment of this goal. That conscious thought, if it is brought in the mind of children, I
Very
look at
important.
I look at the MNCs as a work policy. The moment orientation is happening, the people are told that, okay, this kind of crockery you have to use, or these are the sustainable materials you have to use. This is what is our paper policy. This is what is our recycling policy. This is what is our, I would say, contribution towards the climate. So it becomes a nature. So somewhere, if it demands certain amount of imposition as a policy, absolutely fine, because it's for all collective good. So let's try to put a conscious effort in terms of that. Now coming to the other thing which are also impacting and affecting us, and that is where I'm looking at the school scenario. For that, I want to define two terms, which the age in which we are living, and that's where I want everybody to reflect and think a little bit about it. And this is something which I will say that uh, we are living in Industrial Revolution 4.0,
Correct.
and that is something which is characterized by, if I try to look at what are the major terms which characterize it. So the terms which I could gather repeatedly featuring in that is connectivity. It talks about data and computation. It talks about cloud technology. It talks about internet, blockchain, sensors, analytics, and then even more severe terms like AI, ML, VR, AR, human machine interaction, robotics. And somewhere at the same time, there are some thoughts which are related to renewable energies, or a term featuring like nanoparticles. How are they going to impact our? But trust me, when all this is being taught, and again, another part is that the education 4.0 is nothing but focusing towards transformation of education through these advanced technologies. Education 4.0 is
Correct.
only focusing to fulfill the needs of Industrial Revolution 4.0.
Correct.
And in this whole thing, sadly, the human face is missing. Now, this is where we, as people who think and who work with human beings, have to give it a serious thought, have to make it our priority that in spite of all these things, everything we have to do, we will do it. But let's bring a human touch in that. Let's bring a human to human interface. So, one which I talked about, SDG, my simplest definition of SDG remains it's relationship building. Relationship with what? Relationship with people and spaces around us. So, acknowledging another fellow human being, working towards coexistence on this planet. Are we putting effort? Are we preparing our children? Do our educational goals and vision take care of that or not? Let's put a conscious effort, becomes my priority. The second priority, that in order to develop the technology and live in this age of technology, it is absolutely fine. There could be a wish list in terms of ambitions, that how do we meet that need, and how our ecosystem has to develop, how our digital infrastructure has to develop. And then we could also say that maybe everybody does not have an access. So how will we bring that kind of inclusivity? All that is fine. But in every thought and action, let's bring that human face as the topmost priority. So the moment we will start bringing that human face, it will make people understand differently. It will make them understand that this is what is important. So this is what I will list it as number 2. I hope that is fine. I'm
Yeah.
right on this. Fine. And then again, I said that a lot of things which we have been doing, and on what factors will they depend? Now, this is, as I mentioned initially, only I took the example of sitting in Delhi NCR. So my talk was more concerned about what is happening in Delhi NCR. So it means when we are doing something, there are many factors which will affect it. And I'm going to list about those factors. I'm going to, I'll request people to reflect on that. There are local factors. When we talk about local factors, it could be the history. When we talk about Indian culture, when we talk about our own history, so should that be given significance? Should that is be something from which we draw inspiration. Inspiration in both ways, inspiration to progress, inspiration to correct ourselves. So this is what is important. The geography is also important. I remember asking somebody that I'm visiting a new place, what should I eat? And the person gave me a very simple and logical answer saying that whatever grows there and is available cheapest, eat it without giving it a thought because the nature supports it. That's as simple as that. So the geography, the demographics have to be respected. The economy of that place has to be kept in mind before you decide on what are your thoughts and action, and the educational development of that area. So these are few things which should be kept in mind. And then keeping all these in mind, the local policy or the local policy framework, if it is developed, it will work. So when you are setting your goals, I would say that what is my priority may not necessarily be your priority. So can you try to connect it with your local context?
Local, absolutely.
And once you close, so there's a beautiful term. I came across a term called as global. So we have
Okay,
talked about national and global aim. But the other
correct.
day also I was talking to parents. When I talk to children, I mention it to them that everything begins from self. Everything begins from the family. And you have to first take care of your immediate surrounding, as I mentioned, relationship with people and spaces around you. And then if you are a good child, if you are a good parent, if you are fulfilling something which is the expectation and what is desirable in your own family, then you will see your school, you will see your community as an extended family, and you will work for that. And that is a simple definition of patriotism. That is something
Absolutely.
which is somewhere connecting you and making you contribute to your national aspiration. And subsequently, you are becoming a great global citizen also. So that is why global, that you start from local to national to global. And it's not necessary that everybody will reach the global level directly or maybe visible on a global platform. Doesn't matter. Even if you are visible and you are able to make an impact within your local or within your immediate ecosystem and surrounding and people, trust me, you have contributed as a global citizen. So
Well
there is
said.
no big talk which is about global citizen, but it is the action which is important, right?
Mhm.
And then it is coming to school system, because we are dealing with school system. So how do we incorporate these things? When I said that if this thought has to be brought in our action, so we look at our curriculum which needs to be redesigned, that what are the components. The framework is available, the broad outline is available, but keeping all these local factors, the requirement of that particular region in mind, how do we redefine curriculum, how do we integrate these things which become essential, which are required for my ecosystem. So that kind of integration, and that integration, trust me, if we have done something 10 years back, it's a dynamic process. It has to be revisited. So when I'm sitting in 2025 looking at the requirement, which will prepare my children to take care of their learning as well as moving forward and connecting with the world. So it becomes my responsibility. They will say that you are the elder ones, you have the experience of life, you have seen what is happening around, or sometimes they will demand that why are you teaching us this, and while we feel that this is essential. Somebody says that I need sex education, somebody says that I need to understand what is financial literacy. I don't want financial strength just for the sake of having a big fat package and earning, because what I'm going to do after earning, I'm going to simply increase my purchasing power. That's not going to make me grow financially. So did you teach me how to grow financially? And that is something which will have to be put in our goals and perspective. So the education, the curriculum redefining or curriculum integration, if we see that yes, there is obesity among children, if we see that there are children who for the fad of looking good, they are not even taking care of nutrition, so that needs to be addressed. For that, why do we have to wait for a policy or national framework which will
Correct.
tell us, but if you felt this is the necessity, then why don't we integrate? So identify your own list, what is desirable. And let me tell you that yes, within certain framework there will be commonalities which can be found out, and those common factors, if we include it in our list, so that is what becomes our priority. So prioritization based on your local context comes first. And then there will be, of course, the teaching learning process, because when the purpose, why are we doing it? Because we started looking at it from the scenario of global factors which are impacting our lives collectively. How do we take care of it? is the process, and then what do we do it? So these are the other things which will start falling in place, and we start developing them accordingly. So your teaching learning method or pedagogy or what kind of integration, even if it is a technology integration, how will we be able to build the infrastructure and how will we be able to collaborate? Because everything will not be possible for a single institution or an individual of any capacity to provide. So
Correct.
you have to be open to collaborate. That okay, this is my strength, I offer it to you. However, this is what I've observed it as your strength. So let's not hesitate. Let's not feel shy in reaching out to them. And this is what leadership is all about. Leadership does not say that I am dictating you or I am telling you what to do, but it only tries to facilitate. It only tries to reach out to people. It understands the need of the people around. And the first attempt of leadership is that you step into their shoes and reach out to them. So, be it the health and well being, if it's talking about skill education, it is talking about hobby, the happiness curriculum, the term happiness curriculum, or when we grew up, we were told or we were asked this question very frequently that, okay, what do you study is fine. What's your hobby? And somebody who did not have a hobby was made to sit back and reflect here. I don't have any hobby. Come on, I need to develop something which I like. And this is something which gives me the real sense of joy, and I'm not even developing it. So this is what is desirable, and that's what somebody has now put it in the frame of art integration. Art integration is nothing but bringing joy in everything what you do, bringing an aesthetic sense, bringing a sense which gives joy either to you or to everybody who is watching and experiencing. And then another thing which I say that, and I as a teacher have always practiced, and this I keep sharing with my educators and still remains on my priority list, is learning through stories, learning through anecdotes, learning through experiences. And there you don't have to be always storyteller, you have to be story listener also. Be it a child who is coming and telling and sharing the experiences, so we have to listen to them, we have to understand, and then try to bring and build that moral connect to it, try to connect it to social and cultural values. And that's what is, again, a physics teacher can do it, a mathematics teacher can do it, an economics teacher can do it. You don't have to have a separate lesson for moral science or anything. But this is what is, because life is holistic. Life does not compartmentalize that this is the scientific life or this is what is highly
Absolutely.
real life. But life is holistic. You have to face everything. You have to come home. You have to see to the family needs. You have to be happy. You have to cater to all the requirements. So why not to bring that holistic experience in education? And today, when we are living in the world, I will again acknowledge that yes, there are conflicts. There are situations which are being faced by our children. And what are those situations and how are the schools dealing? I'm going to talk about that also a little bit. So the terms which we have never heard in our childhood, like stress and depression, and now every second person talks about I am so stressed, or this is what is causing depression to me, or I don't know whether it is physical bullying or it is bullying in social media, but it is impacting my life to an extent. You have seen how extremely it affects our system. If we are part of our ecosystem, we acknowledge it, but then how seriously are we taking? How does it disturb? Does it make us wake up in our night and say that this is what has happened and what actions have I taken or what can I do which will be able to bring a difference? So substance abuse, if it is happening, it was happening earlier, it was never unheard of in school. Maybe it was a college term. But today, if it is happening in school, acknowledge and what action have we taken? Does our data suggest that now use your data and try to understand that has an impact been made? And how can it be made? Because are the efforts bringing the difference? Today, if UN Secretary General says that yes, policies were made, goals were made, some efforts were put, but then here is the fact sheet. So use the power of data. We've developed our analytical ability. We are only developing our cognitive ability to the extent the higher order cognitive ability. But then how is it affecting our psychomotor domain? How is it affecting our human to human connect? Why to give it to human to machine connect? Because every human being is connected to machine only and becoming a slave of machine. So this is what is important. Be it the violence in campus, be it the gender discrimination, so the list goes on. But what we observe again in your own ecosystem, in your own local system, identify and keep it on your priority list. And then again, develop a shared vision for that. create actionables on that, and don't sit over it that, okay, this is my vision or this is my goal for the year, so I'm going to review it at the end of the year. No, take all kind of people. When you asked me that, okay, this is what is our topic, so I can tell you that what I'm discussing with you right now, I have some notes written in front of me. For a simple reason, I asked my colleagues, I took their input. I asked my students, I took their input. I asked some parents, took their input. And I asked some people from community also, that how do you perceive the school education system and what is there. I went to the extent of even asking my society guard, or I could ask my cab driver or anybody, because ultimately we are all in that interconnected world. So let's try and understand the perception, what is their expectation, how do we take care of it, and how do we move on. So that is where you will be able to bring that context in that. So this is one which I thought. And then few things which again came as a reflection from observation. So as educators here, everybody is belonging on to the same page and we think alike. So let me say that instead of asking our children how to think, can we simply allow them to think and then we reflect on? The thinking is a process you can't guide. First, you will say, you think about this. What to think? Okay, you have initiated that this is one concern about which you think, but don't try to put your ways in that, that this is the way you have to think. Only in this direction you have to think, leave it open and then get back their thoughts. So this is one. Same way, a lot of effort is going in identifying intelligence. Okay, you are very good in mathematics. You are very good in language, or this is something. Instead of that, can we shift our focus to developing intelligence? People have simply said that, okay, this person's left brain is developed or this person's right brain is developed and he or she is capable of only doing this. Don't expect this from them. So can we again put this in our priority, that our priority is developing intelligence. It's not identifying intelligence. And even if there is nothing, this can be developed. Don't ever say that you will never be able to do that. But yes, this is something which you will be able to do exceptionally well. However, this is something which you should never say, I can't do it. Never say never. So developing that never say never aptitude, and maybe to whatever extent, because as I mentioned the term earlier, that life is holistic. So you never know which skill you have learned when, and it is going to help you in which state. It may not help you directly, it may help somebody else also. So that's what is there. Then it comes to something which my children who will listen to us at this point of time in the season of examination, what a havoc examination marks or the assessment plays on their mind. And I'm sure that every elder person who is sitting here knows, their thought will immediately go to look at this child, how distressed is it? And when you talk to children, be it their own expectations, be it the expectations from peer or the comparison which is happening and this is affecting. So instead of had we invested in helping them master the knowledge and love for the subject and giving them that faith that forget about these marks, let's keep them to certain extent so that you are not on a disadvantageous situation. At the same time, it is your passion, it is your love, and that's where storytelling will come into. That's where your real experiences, that's where the experiences of people who have developed in spite of not getting those so-called very high marks have done so well because they continue to develop. So the journey, and trust me, if I look at successful people in their stories, out of 200 stories, 199 or 198 of them will be stories of failure. And it is those stories of failures which will bring belief in others, that when so and so had faced so many rejections or failures, and today look where he or she has reached. And that's what we try to bring as value, not focusing only on those one or two things where they have succeeded and they are doing well. And the entire focus is only on that, look at this person who is doing that. So in our priority, can we bring in those stories of failures and developing from that? Taking them to the point where the person who has failed some rejection or failure can develop it into a point of discussion, can take it to the state that, yes, this is where I was and this is what I consciously put effort, this is where I took inputs from people, and today I'm in a position to discuss this. Because I have seen the education systems which look at the profiles, they ask this question very consciously. And it plays more significant role than how well have you done or what have your accolades been. The question says that what has been your reaction to setback? How did you face that and how did you evolve from that setback? And our children, their maximum distress is maybe if it is less of a social recognition, maybe it is some comment on social media or less number of liking to your comment or the post, less number of people visiting it, and that is unnecessary adding stress. You have to tell them to be their own self. So this is the power of stories which I was talking about. Then in different examples and in our discussions, listen to the stories, share stories, and then build that. So this is what will make a difference. Then we have to again believe in, as children, as elders, we have traveled places and we have learned from that. So it's not just about excursion, which is something every school does. It is not about taking a trip, but can we try to bring more and more focus on it, so that at least every mind is thinking alike, every mind is inclined towards something, that this is the purpose, again connecting them to why of it. We are doing it, there is fun, everything is fine, but this is the bigger purpose why. So that's something which is there. And then I am still very sorry to share this, but yes, all across I come across, and this is globally, that somewhere that failure becomes so heavy on the person, it's discussed, and somewhere it is even shamed, somewhere it is to an extent that the person about whom it is being talked, they become hopeless. So this is the work. We talk about mental well-being, but then what are we doing for taking care of it? So when we are looking at it, the priority is well-being, and that priority of well-being has to be overall well-being. And I, till last year, this is the difference in 2025. I have confessed it in front of my team, and I'm confessing it here also. I used to talk about or give more priority to physical well-being. That yes, if you have a healthy body, your healthy mind will stay in that, and you'll be able to do everything very well. So first take care of your physical well-being. But trust me, think of a person who has a terminal disease or who is facing extreme health challenges. What do the doctors tell, or what does everybody tell around them? You have to be mentally strong. Unless you are mentally strong, neither the medicines are going to work nor anything else will work. So what is more important than your physical well-being is your mental well-being. So
Correct.
take care of it and develop that mental well-being, change that priority, that first it is the mental well-being, and then comes your physical well-being. And then after that, it is obviously there will be intellectual well-being, there will be spiritual well-being, but all those angles somewhere have to be talked about somewhere. And belonging to India, looking at our own cultural heritage. So yes, there is nothing wrong if we bring in that element of spiritual well-being. If we bring in, the world acknowledges the power of yoga and meditation, then why do we feel shy? The moment there is a session, somebody would feel like I'll attend it, or other person will say this is coming to me as a burden and I'm wasting my time. I've seen students and parents coming and questioning that precious time of my grade 12 child is wasted, that you are putting them to this session. The child has come to school for study and you are putting them to this. So don't worry about it. When you are clear about your thought and action, you have to be convincing enough and you have to explain. And these things will not show. It's like overnight effect will not be visible. But
Absolutely.
yes, it's important that when you do it with a conviction, it will take care of. So these are certain pillars of living, and we need to take care of those pillars of living. So are they in our priority list or not? So this is something which is there. I already mentioned that it's not just cognitive, but it is the other domains of Bloom's taxonomy which need to be taken care of it. And this is very, very important. Then, so moving on to this wish list, education 4.0, imagine if there's going to be education 5.0. And let's not wait for global declaration of education 5.0, but can we declare and decide our own education 5.0? And what should be the format of that education 5.0? What should be important in that? And that takes me back to when India was heading G20 last year, the quote from Maha Upanishad, which talked about Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. So that's where we have to understand that can we develop our children into large-hearted people? And this was something which, again, when I spoke to my team about in 2025, I mentioned that we need to develop large-hearted people. The moment there are large-hearted people, they will accept, they will have tolerance, they will not get impacted by the other's action. And can we create certain pointers which will develop them into that, where they ignore, where they develop, and they remain focused, they keep moving. And this, trust me, Gauravji, this will not be possible without bringing in that little bit of spiritual connect. This will not come without bringing in that balance between mind and body. So our own heritage, our own methods, which are time tested, which are globally accepted, can we put an effort in developing them? If the school begins with, I would say, 10 minutes of, I say that the power of praying is nothing. Every school observes that. There are some schools which will focus more on that, whether every child is singing that prayer or not. The moment national anthem is happening, there were times we have seen people would ask everybody to repeat the national anthem because participation was not good enough. That's not going to develop. Rather, it is the connect which is more important. Even if you are listening to it and even if you are connected, that's important. So let's build that connection. Let's build that relationship. And that is where our duty is to provide the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Gradually, when you are immersed into that ecosystem, slowly it will become a part of it. And that's why the children, when they move out of the system, they come back and say, I miss this. This was something which I have valued and I enjoy. Now I understand the importance. So that's what will bring you to peace. That's
True.
what will make your world harmonious. And that's where you will feel better and connected. So this is what will take care of behavioral problem. This will take care of a lot of conflicts which are happening around us. So these are some things which I felt I can talk about it. And of course, the list can go on and on and on, but I will not focus much on that. A few things which we are doing it with conviction, if the time permits, can I just quickly tell that few things which have given
Please,
us
please, go
results?
ahead. Yeah,
So that,
please.
or before I talk about what we do, if there are any thoughts or any questions, we can take it now, or some interaction you can invite, and then I'll come back to what we are doing.
Whichever
As
way,
I
I
said,
think if any of our leaders have, because usually as a format, they wait for you to conclude and then they will possibly pose your question.
all
But
right. So fine, no problem. I'll just talk about that with keeping all these things in mind. I don't know how many of my priorities you were able to list down all that, but what was there, again, I tried to put it in a holistic manner and a logical sequencing with a little change sequencing, that it starts from why should we do it, what should we do it, how should we do it. That's one which has happened. And then I've talked about relationship with nature, relationship with people, relationship with spaces around us. I have talked about that, yes, how do we develop our children, and for that, what are the processes which have to be followed in school system. So those were few things, and that's where I say that when we look at relationship, one of the practices which we found very impactful and which made a difference in the lives of our children and educator, we call it as KYC. So SDG integration in curriculum, I have already mentioned, and the other thing, KYC, which is industry inspired term, but we say that know your child. And this know your child was further transformed into KYCB, know your child better. And in that process of knowing, we try to even gather information and we documented that, okay, this child had this, with this teacher, this child's relation was exceptional. The child would reach out to this person without hesitation, or with this peer, the child had this kind of relation. And this is the data, or this is the result which it shows how he or she has developed. So once that document is there, it is helpful. Imagine a child who is writing grade 12 board examination and in any kind of distress. We use the power of this documentation and data. We revisit it and we try to bring in those points which will be able to help. So this is one. The second thing, people who are taking care of children are the superhuman beings, I must call, and my salutation to all the educators who are here and who are impacting the lives of children. So now, if we want to keep their life stress-free, if we want to de-stress them, if we want them to enjoy the process, the best way is we need to empower. We need to give them the tools which will be kind of, you may call it a survival kit or surviving it better or moving ahead with times, because these children, if they are technologically superior, so what we have to do is for our teachers to face them with confidence, for our teachers to face them happily and enjoy the process with them, we need to develop. And that's what a lot of emphasis is being done, and what we are participating today is also building our own capacity. So capacity building is something which we have consciously been doing, and this has given us results, not only personal to professional development, but it has led to the development of students. Not only empowering and allowing our teachers to develop, but fostering student agency. In our ecosystem, if we say that there are 3 or 4 students who come to us and talk to us very passionately that this is what we want to do, This is how we want to do, and you can probably discuss and direct us and tell us how to do it better. But we never say no to anybody. We never say that this is something, either we logically discuss. No word will not be used, but they'll be convinced that why should they do it and why should they not do it. And if they have to do it, how can they do it better? So that why is again part of that thought process and the discussion, and giving them that space, giving them that opportunity. Trust me, it is called fostering student agency. Once that opportunity is given, the impact of this is visible, and that is what is happening. And it should always, for every individual in every ecosystem, we are focusing on two A's, which again I've talked about in 2025, that let's be very vocal about it. Let's bring it in as many forum as possible, as many people can see it. And those two A's are nothing but acknowledgement and appreciation. That whatever anybody has done, however significant or less significant, whatever is their acknowledgement is important, because that acknowledgement will develop them. It will connect them to what they have done, that yes, there is somebody who is noticing even if I have not gone and told them. And then the appreciation is the motivation. The intrinsic motivation is nothing but the appreciation. So let these become an integral part. So these two A's. Reflection is always essential, which our students practice and teachers practice in a session called as Manthan. Manthan, where the students will decide, okay, now we want to discuss about it. And it's almost like everybody sits and shares their stories, shares their thoughts, and then we reflect and take care of it. So that's taking care of well-being. That is what is developing. And then inclusivity, a very simple process which we adopted and which I'm sure I'll appeal to the educators. I'll give you an example. That imagine you revisit your school time certificate and somewhere it is written, you had participated in some event and you see that it's ranked third. I stood third in that. Now that label was given. How happy will that person be? Somebody who is complacent may not bother much about it, or somebody who is not interested, but somewhere it might hit someone also. The third, I'm not convinced with it. Or there is an appreciation letter or appreciation certificate which is there. Participation is there. Participation is fine. So we thought that even the entire ecosystem is thinking in terms of doing away with the ranking. So this year when we did our within our school events or even inter-school events, so we acknowledge students by giving them certificates mentioning so and so is outstanding, the performance, or the participation was excellent and this is praiseworthy. Now that kind of acknowledgement, it's never labeled as 1, 2, 3. 10, 20 years down the line, when the person will look at it and say excellent, will forget whether I came first or second. But the moment it was second, it gives you an acknowledgement there was somebody who was better than you. So this is what we are doing in terms of building that. And of course, attitude of gratitude is something which is ingrained in our culture. So that for everyone, we practice it. We have consciously developed students as SDG ambassadors, which has not only earned them placement within country, but global placement is wonderful. The moment you say and you create that story, you bring it as a point of discussion that yes, I have contributed and here is the anecdote, here is the data which can prove that I have been an ambassador for this particular goal. So that is something which is pursued because you are taking action, and taking action is something which is most convincing. So this is there. Career guidance and counseling is something which I mentioned, but career guidance is also important. So a very simple thought and action. We ask a student for profile building that you write your SOP, statement of purpose. You revisit and revisit it annually and you edit it, but not before a particular year. I remember during COVID when children were not able to access us or meet us directly, somebody asked for LOR. I said, you don't come to us. Why don't you connect with somebody who is in your neighborhood, somebody in the community who has been observing, and what kind of work have you been doing? They are a witness to it. Why don't you ask them to write a LOR? And trust me, those who approached them and LORs were written, that has given them a recognition that was valued equally as if it is written by a principal or an educator. So this is what is there. So it means in this education 5.0, we have to create space for that. We have to create that harmony, balance between nature and people. We have to allow our children to use their own wisdom, but yes, take them somewhere, give them little directions at the same time, allow the space to expand. So these are few thoughts which I thought are evidence based. I can always share stories, a number of stories. And this is what we have to develop and use their own stories, because within your own ecosystem, call those alumni, call those children to talk to others about it, that this is what I did and this is where I reached there. So that will definitely be more convincing. So few things I practiced and I shared it with you. Of course, it is my team which has practiced and they have been consciously developing, which will remain, because I said that those are the measurable. I won't call it best practices, but the practices which are evidence based and which have given us the result. So that gives us conviction that let's continue with this practice. And wherever we feel that there is more effort which is required, then put some thought process to it and develop. Right, Gauravji?
No, wonderful. In fact, I'm very happy that Sanjay ji, you really gave a new dimension to this discussion today, and not just restricted your deliberation to only those few points. Maybe right, we could have really tangibly said those are like top 10 priorities.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that you opened up the discussion to newer domains, I would say, and made everybody think a little more harder, if I may say that, how priorities can be not just very inward looking, but can be very outward looking also. So wonderful. I think great. I honestly enjoyed the discussion because I was personally listening to every point which you said. And obviously, SDGs are very, very important goals, which every educators, or I would say every human being, should be practicing now. In fact, as a concerned citizen of this world, for that matter, because something very important happened yesterday, which is Donald Trump became the 47th president of the world, as in of the US. And you know, one of the steps which he has taken is that he has brought US out of the Paris Agreement, basically. So he has very consciously said that no, we would not be part of Paris Agreement, and which, you know, because US is the largest emitter of greenhouse gases, basically, up behind,
Yes.
in fact, China, and that becomes a little more trickier for the entire world, if I may say. Let's just see how it really spans out. But I understand what you're trying to say, which is that it's a collective responsibility of each one of us, basically, to contribute to the betterment of this world, I would say. And school should not be looked at in isolation. School is a very important subset of the entire human existence, if I may say, right? That's the way we, and the people who are being nurtured in those ecosystems are the ones who will lead this world to the better, or I would say to whatever place they will take it, for that matter. Wonderful. So I think I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. As I said, it made us think beyond those sort of a few numbered priorities, which usually every institution comes and lists down about their own priorities, if I may say. But I'm happy that you gave a very broad direction to the entire conversation. So now, given we have 10 minutes, in fact, we have exactly 11 minutes by our clock. We will obviously, if at all we need more 5 odd minutes, we will extend that, because I think we want to devote some time to these question and answers for you as well. So that everybody really possibly ask you some questions, which I believe they will have. And if they have their point to also add, again, restricted into the conversation which we had, we would love to hear from everyone. Right. So the way we will do it, dear leaders who are participating here with us in this discussion, give us a virtual show of hand. We'll help you unmute, and then you can ask your question or you can make your observation on today's discussion which we had, right? So that's the way we will have it. But at the same time, as I'm sharing with all of you, in fact, Sanjay ji is the one who drove this discussion with us today as a leader of our discussion. I will also request all of you to really bring this discussion of SDG. I think personally, while I'm sure a lot of leaders are already doing it, but at the cost of maybe repeating myself, I think the way Sanjay ji intertwined the entire thing, which is SDG, into the way of sort of transacting into schools is wonderful. I think that's a great example. And everybody who are wanting to do this can be really, I mean, this can be the great start for them example. At the same time, Sanjay ji is, I'm sure he is available on LinkedIn. All of you who wish to really interact with him beyond this discussion also, so please do and connect with Sanjay ji, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help you understand a little better on what they are doing, because Ahlcon is doing a great work in terms of not only just SDG, but overall practices, I believe, are being carried out in this institution. So if you have a question, the way we will do it is you'll have to give us a brief introduction of yours so that everybody gets to know you a little better, which is your name, where or which institution are you part of, and then you can pose your question. I think we have someone already, Priya Gambhir. If you can please ask your question. Over to you.
Am I visible and audible?
Yeah, you are. Please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Priya Gambhir, Principal, St. Andrew World School, Vasundhara. Sanjay sir, an insightful session. I think my notepad is filled with so many takeaways, and I'll be certainly listing it out and would certainly going to take all the practices, try to, imbibe maximum. And my question to you is that Education 5.0, when we envisage, we are talking about SDGs, we are talking about holistic development. One practice which you suggest for the middle school under the title value education, which a school must do it regularly.
Right. So again, let's try to understand why Education 5.0. What is something which is the dire need, and that dire need is, if we try to see that, bringing peace in the mind of these children, because somebody may say that okay, the child is hyperactive, or they think differently and they need attention, or this is the reason why they are all the time doing, because there is a why behind whatever they are doing. So to bring that peace, what kind of practices are desirable? And I mentioned that this is something which has to be, the biggest power of conviction is stories and anecdotes. So even if you are teaching a mathematics lesson, and if you are teaching a number pattern and you are relating it to certain music pattern, or you are relating it to certain art pattern, and which brings a smile or which brings that eternal joy, you have touched a chord. You have made a difference, and you have not used the term that I am teaching you some value education class is going on, and there is a short story which is discussed, or you take their reflection. So every lesson has to be meticulously planned. How you open your thought, the discussion. I remember as a physics teacher, I would always begin my lesson with a thought for the day, which had no correlation and connection with physics. But the children, they don't remember what physics I taught them. They don't remember what happened in the class, but still many of them, they remember that thought of the day. So that's where you've integrated very small conscious effort which is required. And when I mentioned about Manthan, this is a practice which we are doing it in our middle school. And this practice has yielded such result. In fact, it has given us so much of insight that children, what is happening, you will not be able to imagine what is happening in their homes, what is happening in their minds, what is happening surrounding them. But when they are given a safe space, when they are given a non-challenging atmosphere where they can speak, they know that they are not going to be judged by anybody. That's where we will learn from them how to take care of them. So this is what will bring a lot of difference. Priyaji, you could unmute yourself, I guess.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Certainly, story has got a power, and irrespective of the age, it works wonder. And through this medium, I would also like to tell, though it's a small institution, just started, and I'm an aspiring principal, but my school works, very much on SDG goals, and our entire building we have converted into, Bala system, where SDG is a prime, factor which is being displayed, and each teacher has been an ambassador, and our yearly internal assessment projects are based on SDGs. Each child has been sensitized, and they are putting best of their efforts to give back to the society. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. All the very best, Ms. Priya. Okay. Yes. Any other question? If we have quickly, we still have 4 minutes by our official clock. We will take up those questions with Sanjay ji, right? Or if you have any observation to share, this is what you heard today from Sanjay ji. Maybe a lot of the points you must be already doing, but let's hear it from you in specific, right? So that is the way we will do it. Otherwise, if you don't have, in the meantime, I have a question, Sanjay ji. No, I think
Yes.
there's someone's question. Roshan's iPhone, is that what? Roshan, I think this is Miss Roshan Patel. Is that Miss
Yes,
Roshan?
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. I am unable to put on my video.
That's fine.
Pardon me for this. Sorry. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
can.
Please go
We
ahead,
can.
Roshanji.
Happy evening to all of you. Happy evening.
Happy
Uh,
evening.
an excellent. I gave my comments first only to Gaurav sir. A very practical oriented approach and a wonderful session today. I really enjoyed it. After a long time, I got the opportunity to join.
So the compliment to Sanjay ji, not to me. Yes, Sanjay ji, compliments to
Yes.
you.
No, I
Not
gave a
not to me,
message
but
to you
as I
on chat.
mentioned, my disclaimer was that a lot of people have contributed to that. So my compliments to
Yes,
all
your
of them.
entire
Very
team.
humble. Yeah,
Yes.
you're very humble, sir. Uh, no, every point. If you again when you send the recording, we'll really look at it, and every point makes resonates, because I think everybody attending here will say, "Ha, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I can do it better." So definitely a very wonderful session. Absolutely, to the point, very practical oriented, and the choice and of vocabulary was fantastic. No jargons, so definitely we enjoyed it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Roshan,
sir.
thank you, Roshan ji, for your kind words. Roshan ji runs, in fact, for the benefit of all of you. Roshan ji, why don't you introduce yourself so that people get to know you a little
Oh, I'm
better?
so sorry. I should have done that.
Yes.
I am now the director of Raigad International School in Lonavala, the founder, principal, and director. And yeah, it's a school which is brought up by the heart, soul, and then the mind. So there are very much, it's not a brick building. And I invite all of you to come to Lonavala, Atikya Khandala. So come to Lonavala. I'm ready to host all of you. And yeah, hopefully, we are the only ICSE school there. There are not many schools over there. There are few, but very limited population, so limited schools. And we try to incorporate all what's best in the metro cities in for our students. It's a day school, and by God's grace, our children are doing very well.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Roshan ji. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining in.
Thank you.
And thank you for your compliments to the session. Thank you very much. Any other question, ladies and gentlemen? We'll have one more. I mean, we have time, in fact, for one more quick question if you have, or an observation, right? Otherwise, I personally know this was a fabulous session. I know, and I think what Roshan ji just sort of validated what we all are thinking right now, and I understand that completely. But yes, Sangeeta ji, your will be the final question, and then we'll call it a day.
Gaurav, can you hear me? Something
Yes,
is
Sangeeta
wrong
ji,
with
please
my
go ahead.
connection here. I don't know. I'm having a laptop also and a phone also. Something went wrong in the middle, though
No
I'm trying
problem.
to. First of all, I think it's all the session. This was one of the most wonderful one. I personally feel, I attend all of them. You were very right when you said, we all keep going around merry-go-round, and look at the same priorities. But Sir has put a very different perception here.
Correct.
And I think it's not only a global perception, but it's a perception, where we should think beyond the four walls of classroom. Now,
Absolutely.
as you have said that, I would just share a small thing. Everybody can take it. Indore, is one of the most cleanest city of Indore. I come from Indore, the Millennium School Indore. And, we have started something in Indore which is called a climate mission. Dr. Chetan Solanki from IIT Mumbai has taken it over. And it's a very simple process which says save on your electricity bill by 20%. That's it for 3 months, and you will be having less of, I think, 20% of carbon emission in the air. And that's not very difficult to do because he said 1 plus 1 is equal to 10. So I'm talking to so many principals today. Those can talk to their children, and the children can go to their 10 neighbors and talk about it, and it becomes a little cycle, a turnaround. So we are hoping that Indore would be the first city to achieve it. But it let me thinking that how important these small projects are when Sir was talking about it.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Sanjay Sir. It was really, I was mesmerized listening to it. And I don't have any questions because now I'll do an introspection to find some questions and answers myself. Thank you, Gaurav. It was amazing, and very amazing.
So thank you,
Fantastic.
Sangeeta
Thank
ji.
you,
Just
Sangeeta
a
ji.
quick add to that thought that yes, inspired by Solanki sir, I tried doing it myself and I have shared 2 electricity bills of my own home where I was
Oh,
able to
nice.
practice it and show 20% of a difference.
That's so nice, sir. That's so nice. Yeah.
Wonderful. In fact, thank you, Sangeeta ji. And
Thank you.
obviously, I think you beautifully summed up that this has made us think all introspect in the right direction, I would say. And that was the beauty of this discussion. Now
Yeah.
we are getting a lot of questions while we are 2 minutes ahead of our schedule. Trilok ji and Deep Khare ji, these are very important people I know. So I will, Sanjay ji, I'll give them,
Yeah,
I'll give
absolutely.
these final 2 questions and then we'll call it a day. Okay?
No
Trilok ji
worries.
and then Deep Khare ji. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Sanjay ji,
Good
Gaurav ji.
evening.
It is so wonderful hearing you, Sanjay sir. I think the top priorities, 10 priorities, when you talked about the sustainability, I think it was an eye opener for all of us that we have to think beyond the admissions, beyond the academic curriculum revamping and all. You took a different turn altogether. I also feel like the previous speaker that you were different altogether. I just want to say I really loved each and every word which was spoken today. You were mesmerizing, Sanjay sir.
Thank you
Lovely,
so
lovely being audience today with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trilok ji.
Deep Khare ji, please go ahead. Deep Khare ji is also a very distinguished leader, ladies and gentlemen. Sanjay ji, at present, Deep Khare ji is a principal at KT Global School in Bhubaneswar, and again, a very, very distinguished leader. Deep Khare ji, over to you. You'll have to unmute. कुछ दिक्कत है लगता है. We'll give one more try. Otherwise, again, we'll thank Sanjay ji for an extremely valuable session. Absolutely. As I said, I see, not that I was saying this, Sanjay ji, this is resonated across. Everyone who came on the audio shared the same view that you made them think harder for that matter. So thank you very much, Sanjay ji, once again. Absolute pleasure having you. And more than that, I think we were around 130 of us who joined us. We still have 109 of us now. And having said this, more than that, I think everybody who was here in this session truly enjoyed it. And I think they all have gained a lot out of it. And more than that, when we go back, it will make us think a little more harder, if I may say. That's what you have been able to achieve. So thank you very much. And yes, have a great evening. There are a lot of takeaways for me as well personally. I think Sangeeta ma'am at the last also added Mr. Chetan Solanki's work. I believe he's also doing a fabulous work. I think we would certainly like to invite him sometime over so that his message can go across the country for that matter. But in the meantime, anyone who has not filled in our details, I would again request before I close this session that we want you to share with us those top 10 priorities. And I'm sure after listening to today's session, Sanjay ji's session, your top priorities will definitely have a little more broader perspective to it for that matter. So thank you very much, Sanjay ji. Thank you everyone who could join us this evening. We now see you on the 27th for our 4th session. And until then, take care of yourself, please. Thank you.
So thank you, Gaurav ji and Team IPN and every member who could join us today. So it was absolute delight and look forward to more sessions and listening to nice people whom you managed to connect. So my compliments to you and team.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone who could join us. And we hope to see you on the 27th. Take care.
Sure. Thank you.